the only peaceful solution. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. Thomas Jefferson. Power. It's all about power. Today the elite control the people through legislation, corporations, monopolies. They control the government through parties. They control our judicial process through the Bar Association. They control our education. They control our entertainment. They control our media. They control our religion. And they control our money. And all this adds up to the New World Order.
National Liberty Alliance was founded in May 2013. The purpose of National Liberty Alliance is to provide an online national venue where the people can organize, communicate, and learn the science of government by consent to restore our republic. As the swamp is drained and power removed from the deep state, a vacuum will occur. And if we, the people, do not educate ourselves and fill these positions of authority, our servants will. And it will only be a matter of time before we find ourselves back under tyranny again. Thomas Jefferson said, "If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be." It is that narrative, being the essence of the knowledge of our heritage, that National Liberty Alliance is endeavoring to revive among the people at the grassroots, in an effort to save our dying republic by convincing the people that we need to return to a lawful government by consent before the light of that candle shines no more in America. Although NLA is a national organization, we view ourselves as the resuscitator for liberty in the hearts and the minds of the American people on the grassroots. Thomas Jefferson said, "It is imperative that the nation see to it that a suitable education be provided for all its citizens. Educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. And since our servant government has neglected to so educate and inform the people in our government, financially sustained elementary education, therefore we the people of National Liberty Alliance will." Consent to our government is dictated by American Bar Association lawyers and party bosses and not the people. ABA lawyers control our courts and not the people. ABA-controlled party bosses control who gets on the ballot and not the people. Therefore, we have government by consent of ABA lawyers and party bosses and not the people. President Trump and the Patriots can drain the swamp and make America great again, but only we, the people, can prevent the swamp from returning and keep America great. This can only happen if we, the people, take back our control of our political and judicial processes, which is our duty. In order to be a free and independent, self-government people, the people must be properly and sufficiently educated, without which there can be no liberty. It is therefore the responsibility of the people to educate themselves and take back our republic or give up their authority of government by consent to the socialist lawyers and party bosses that have already seized control of said authority. The traitorous ABA accomplished this by processes called construction of law, whereas over time they covertly inserted pieces of legislation and removed others as they lulled the people to sleep and replaced the law of the land with civil law. Ignorance is bliss until it catches up with us. The following pages will reveal how these socialists stole our unalienable rights of government by consent, and the only plan on how we will take it back. First our courts, and then our political process. How they stole liberty and nullified the Constitution. In 1865, the 13th Amendment just disappeared that prevented bar attorneys from holding office. The 13th Amendment was ratified in 1819, which reads in part as follows. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States, and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. The reason being is because the British bar brings civil law in place of natural law, whereas we read civil law, Roman law, and Roman civil law are convertible phrases, meaning the same system of jurisprudence, that rule of action which every particular nation, commonwealth, or city has established peculiarly for itself, more properly called municipal law, to distinguish it from the law of nature. Today, American Bar Association has abrogated the natural law, bringing us the same evil. Man's civil law, or civil Roman law, in place of God's natural law, or common law. In 1868, the bar's 14th Amendment was ratified, which reads in part, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens. The 14th Amendment attempted to remove the people from under the jurisdiction of natural law, thereby subjecting us to the jurisdiction of Roman civil law, and replacing our unalienable rights given by God with civil rights given by Congress and the courts. Under this repugnant conclusion, the law of the land would be abrogated. Our servants become the masters, and we the people become their subjects. Natural liberty is unalienable and bequeathed upon all men by God, where no man can put asunder, whereas the 14th Amendment privileges, also known as civil rights, are given by legislation to a particular person or group. Samuel Adams said, "The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the law of nature for his rule." It was an evil day for American liberty when the theory of government outside supreme law found lodgment in our legislative laws, which are no laws, through the Organic Act of 1871 that covertly seized control of a federal district, unlawfully changing it into a state controlled by foreign powers. No higher duty rests upon America's elected servants today than to exert their full authority to avert violations of the principles of the Constitution by simply adhering to it. In 1878, 75 lawyers from 20 states and the District of Columbia met in Saratoga Springs, New York, to establish the American Bar Association, the minions of the New World Order of the ages. Since that first meeting, the ABA has worked in the shadows, infiltrating our government, our courts, our churches, our institutions, and our media, demoralizing our children, all in an effort to expunge our common law and replace it with civil law, also known as Babylonian law, or Justinian law, or Roman law. Today, with about 500,000 bar members, they have perverted the rule of law, deprived we, the sovereign people, of due process, and have supplanted our Article III courts with jurisdictions unknown. Today, there are 80,000 lawyers working in Washington, D.C. alone. In 1913, 3 unratified diabolical acts of Congress set the course for the destruction of the United States of America. They are, number 1, the 16th Amendment, which only appears to create an income tax, an act of extortion, and the sponsor of debtors' prison, in direct violation of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 5. No captation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. Number 2. The 17th Amendment destroyed the checks and balances of power in violation of the Constitution, Article 5, which states, "No state, without its consent, shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate." The 17th Amendment removed the states' representation in Washington, giving the Senate to the people, who already had representation in Congress, thereby depriving states of its equal suffrage. Every state, being sovereign, has the ability to correct this unconstitutional amendment by the power of nullification. The governor and the two houses of each state need only recall the two unconstitutional senators and send two that will represent the will of the state. 3. And the unconstitutional Federal Reserve Banking Act of 1813 gave control of America's economy to a private corporation owned by foreign bankers who answer to no one and regulate the value of worthless notes of debt called the dollar, robbed we the people of our gold and bankrupt America. Thomas Jefferson warned us when he wrote, "I sincerely believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people, to whom it properly belongs." President Andrew Jackson stated in reference to the bankers at the state of his administration, "You are a den of vipers and thieves. I intend to rout you out, and by the eternal God I will rout you out." How they stole liberty and nullified the Constitution. 1934. The American Bar Association's de facto enabling act of 1934, covertly passed by the ABA-controlled Congress, which enabled the ABA-controlled United States Supreme Court and the 94 ABA-controlled federal district courts to conceal and subvert all natural law courts via Rule 2. Whereas repugnant tyrants controlling de facto civil law was imposed upon the people, subverting the de jure law of the land, and thereby controlling the people's behavior, and subduing the people through de facto courts of tyrants, replacing the people's unalienable rights, gifted by our Creator, with civil rights, which are rights appertaining to a person in virtue of his citizenship in a state or community. The aforesaid abomination allowed for all 50 ABA-controlled state courts, all ABA-controlled county courts, all ABA-controlled city courts, all ABA-controlled town courts, and all ABA-controlled village courts, which have incorporated as a municipality, as did the United States government via the Organic Act of 1871, in order to follow suit in concealing and subverting natural law courts and the law of the land under the guise of municipal law, also known as the law of the city, Roman law, or Justinian law, or civil law, all repugnant to the law of the land, and in so doing provide the political stage for corporatism. Whereas in these courts of injustice the people find themselves in jurisdictions unknown, stripped of their unalienable rights, fleeced of their money and property, and jailed or institutionalized as mentally disturbed if they resist. Today we are homeless in a land that our founding fathers fought to secure. Natural law has been concealed by the judiciary, and thereby we the people have lost our unalienable right to consent for our courts to tyrant judges. 1944. civil law went into full force. Federal courts surrendered to the centralized banking system. In 1947, the CIA and NSA, National Police State Surveillance Grid. 1948, the United Nations, New World Order, established headquarters in New York City. 1950, the Reese Committee reports a communist plot to destroy a republic. Congress does nothing. 2001, 9/11, Homeland Security Police State Surveillance Grid reaches maturity. 2013, John Kerry signed the United Nations Arms Treaty. National Security Agency has built the country's biggest spy center located at Utah National Guard Camp in Bluffdale, housing a $1.5 billion, 1 million square feet massive 20-building complex, becoming the largest, most covert, and potentially most intrusive intelligence agency ever, examining and processing all forms of communications, including the complete contents of private emails, cell phone calls, tweets, and internet searches, as well as all types of personal data trails, parking receipts, travel itineraries, bookstores purchases, and other digital pocket litter. Only you can restore liberty and the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson said, "If a government, either by malfeasance or neglect, fails to protect those rights, or even worse, if the government itself begins to violate those rights, then it is the right and duty of the people to regain control of their affairs and set up a form of government which will serve the people better. These rights, which have been bestowed by the Creator, they cannot be altered or eliminated at any time. That is, they cannot be taken away or violated without the offender coming under the judgment and the wrath of the Creator." Samuel Adams said, "The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but only to have the laws of nature for his rule. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty." Thomas Jefferson. This is that process. National Liberty Alliance. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Patrick Henry. How we will restore liberty and the Constitution. 2017. Donald Trump becomes president and foils the coup and begins dismantling the deep state. Today, outcome-based socialist education is in full force in our schools, destroying our American youth. And according to the Washingtonian, there are 80,000 lawyers working in Washington, D.C., unwittingly and covertly spreading their venomous socialist agenda. These ABA subverts have flooded our courts and polluted our Constitution with about 140 years of repugnant acts, statutes, and rules. All of the aforesaid destructive acts, along with many more, were possible because the federal government that centralized our education has removed civil constitutional studies and true American history from our curriculum, replacing it with an outcome-based socialist education. Only the people can save America. President Trump is setting the stage to save the republic, but it is incumbent upon the people to take back the two power structures, being the political and the judicial process. If we, the people, fail to learn the science of government by consent in order to restore our republic and act upon it, President Trump's effort will be in vain. As Thomas Jefferson said, If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. An enlightened citizenry is indispensable for the proper functioning of a republic. Self-governance is not possible unless the citizens are educated sufficiently to enable them to exercise oversight. It is therefore imperative that the nation see to it that a suitable education be provided for all its citizens. Educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. We, the people, must join the revolution. The following is what we, the people, have accomplished to date. 2002, we, the people, held a Truth in Taxation hearing, invited the government, and broadcasted it live over C-SPAN in Washington, D.C., and concluded that our courts of law are closed. Government acquiesced. In 2004, we the people held a conference to restore constitutional order and invited the government. We broadcasted live over C-SPAN, and again, government acquiesced. In 2008, we the people went to the United States Supreme Court, and they refused to answer the question concerning the unalienable right of redress of grievances protected by the First Amendment. The government acquiesced. In 2009, we the people elected delegates for the Third Continental Congress from 48 states and met in St. Charles, Illinois, producing the Articles of Freedom. In 2010, delegates of the Third Continental Congress served Articles of Freedom to the President, the United States Congress, all state governors and legislators, and the government acquiesced. In 2015, we the people formed the common law grand jury and served a writ quo warranto and many writ mandamuses, and the government acquiesced. In 2017, we the people, via the common law grand jury, filed an extraordinary action with over 100 documents against the United States Supreme Court and Congress, and the government acquiesced. In 2019, on August 17th, we the people filed a declaration of restoration of the law of the land, directed to the United States Supreme Court and Congress, demanding the resignations of those who are of a mind to resist or suffer the consequences of indictments for fraud on the court, conspiracy, felony, and or treason. To date, the government has acquiesced. How we will restore liberty and the Constitution. The people have an indubitable, unalienable, and indefeasible right to reform or change their government when it is found adverse or inadequate to the purposes of its institution. James Madison. We, the people, have been providentially entrusted via natural law to dispense justice and were provided legal recourse to address the criminal conduct of the judiciary and our representatives. The people have the unbridled right by law and in law to impanel their own grand juries and present true bills of information, indictments, and presentments to a court of justice, which is then required to commence a criminal proceeding under natural law. On December 14, 2016, we the people, via the common law grand jury, opened a common law court of record in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of New York by filing of an extraordinary action against the federal judiciary and U.S. Congress. Since then, we have filed over 100 documents demanding obedience to the law of the land, for them to join the people in our quest to reinstate the Constitution for the United States of America and bring to justice all subverts who resists. On August 17, 2019, we the people, via decision and order, filed a declaration of restoration of the law of the land, demanding the resignations of those who are of a mind to resist or suffer indictment for fraud on the court, conspiracy, felonies, and/or treason. This extraordinary action at law is not unlike the unanimous declaration of the 13 colonies of America, filing our final review for the record on April 2, 2020, summarily determining the facts and reiterating the matter as law and justice require. We the people have declared that prudence indeed will dictate that government long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more likely disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the form by which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object reveals a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such tyrannical gods and to provide new gods for their future security. National Liberty Alliance's plan to restore liberty and the Constitution. By building grand and petit jury administrations for the people to take control of the orientation and guiding the grand and petit juries, taking away from the courts and the prosecutors. We have established from the Magna Carta, paragraph 61, that there must be a minimum of 4 administrators per county. More may be required for the more densely populated counties, and 1 skilled legal secretary per county. These will be paid positions, financially supported by the state. You will learn more in subsequent PowerPoint videos and online courses. At the recording of this video, we have more than 1,500 people signed up to be administrators. If you would like to apply for the position, go to nationallibertyalliance.org, and when you join, check the box Become an Administrator. After joining, click on Become a Jury Administrator under the People's Duty tab and follow the instructions. No experience is necessary. This is on-the-job training. This video can be found by clicking on Organize Your County under the People's Duty tab. Principles and maxims. Administrators will not establish rules, nor will there be any chairman, but will be ruled by a vow to God, thereby adhering to 3 principles and 2 maxims. Anyone who acts outside of the principles are in dishonor and must correct themselves or resign. It is the duty of the other 3 administrators to remove anyone who breaks their oath and refuse corrections if they would be a wrongdoing to continue with a person who breaks their oath. If a disagreement comes about, majority of the 4 or more always rules. If a disagreement becomes a stalemate, administrators are to agree on a bordering county to decide. If the administrators cannot agree on a county, draw lots. If the bordering county ends in a stalemate, seek another. Maxims are established principles or propositions, a principle of law universally admitted as being a correct statement of the law or as agreeable to natural reason. Koch defines a maxim to be conclusion of reason, granted without proof, argument, or discourse. The administrator's vow. I vow to ensure that all public servants uphold the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Prohibitions, and to carry out all my deliberation under natural law, principled under justice, honor, and mercy, and to strictly adhere to the following 2 maxims. Every right, when withheld, must have a remedy, and every injury its proper redress. And second, in the absence of a victim, there can be no crime, corpus delicti. The state cannot be the victim. Only the people can save our republic. How the people will restore liberty and the Constitution, the power and the authority of the grand jury. Jury administrators orientate the juries and are the investigative authority of the grand jury. It is the duty of the common law grand jury to expose all fraud and corruption, whether it be in the political or the judicial realm, and stop it. The authority of the grand jury is found only in the Bill of Rights. Therefore, it comes from God and not government. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on the presentment or indictment of a grand jury. The American grand jury is neither part of the judicial, executive, nor the legislative branch of government, but instead belongs to the people. It is in effect a fourth branch of government, governed and administered too directly by and on behalf of the American people, and its authority emanates from the Bill of Rights. The Fifth Amendment demands a traditional, functioning common law grand jury. The courts do not preside over the functioning of the common law grand jury. They are separate from the courts. The judge is not to preside over the functioning of the common law petit jury. We can turn back the political and judicial clock to 1789. We can indict criminals, including judges and politicians. We can reinstate the real duties of the sheriff. We can reinstate the elected committeemen. We can stop open political and judicial corruption and bind them down by the chains of the Constitution. Find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org under the People's Duty tab, because only the people can save our republic. NLA's plan to restore power back to the people. The committeemen. Both the Republican and Democratic associations, which are private corporate parties, and the American Bar Association, which is also a private corporation, have been covertly nibbling away at our founding documents since 1776. With President Trump and the patriots working from the top down to defeat the deep state, the people at the grassroots must bring the bottom up. It's a grassroots revolution. Draining the swamp and removing the deep state will create a power vacuum in our courts and our political process that must be filled by we the people in order to bring back government by consent. If the people fail to take back their rightful heritage of self-rule by controlling our courts of law via free and independent juries and our political process via the elected committeemen, we will lose our republic and remain a democracy, which is mob rule, the mob being out-of-control, lawless, bureaucratic tyrants. Thomas Jefferson said, "The two enemies of the people are criminals and government." So let us tie down the second with the chains of the Constitution, so the second will not become the legalized version of the first. Presently, the deep state still has a stronghold on the two power structures that control the political and judicial narrative. And until the people tie it down with the chains of the Constitution, America will continue to be under mob rule. A prerequisite by the people who will take up the committeeman position to take back our republic is a proper education. NLA is presenting and providing that education in 3 courses: the government by consent course, the civics course, and the militia course, and our weekly discourses, updates, and open forums, because only the people can save our republic. Political power. There are two designating titles in election law. The committeeman, which is the elected consenter, elected by the people, and member of the county committee, also known as a town committeeman. They are elected by party bosses. Election law, subsection 6-108, states, members of the county committee from a town shall be nominated at a primary election. And their rules say at a later time that they become elected at a party meeting. Whereas subsection 6-118 says that the nomination of a candidate for election to a party position, which is the committeeman, is to be elected at a primary election and shall be by designating petition. Both parties have expunged subsection 6-118, but of course it's still on the books, and nevertheless it's an unalienable right of we the people to have control of our own political process. So it's important to see the difference between the two. Members of the county committee shall be nominated at the primary election, and then they are elected later by the party bosses at a party meeting. Whereas in the other side, the committeeman is elected at the primary election, but they are nominated for that position by designating petition. So the member of the county committee is empowered by party rules and answers to the party bosses. It is an advisory committee and meets in town. They have no power. They can be removed from the seat by a party boss for not doing the will of the party bosses. This was a great facade and conduit of evil that trained the candidates to be corrupt from the start. If they are not corruptible, they rarely get the party nod. Whereas the committeeman is empowered by the law and answers only to the people. Committeeman's votes for every candidate. They meet in the county seat, and no proxy votes are permitted. They can be removed from office by the people for not doing the will of the people. We need to jumpstart the law to take back the republic by bringing back the elected committeemen. You can find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org under the People's Duty tab. The power and the authority of the elected committeemen. Committeemen are the guardians of our republic, the consentors of the people. Committeemen interview candidates for appointments onto the primary ballot. Committeemen can require that candidates know the Constitution. Committeemen can prevent unconstitutional legislation. Committeemen have the power to recall politicians in bad behavior. Committeemen guard over the elections by witnessing the hand counting of the votes. Committeemen can reinstate the real duties of the sheriff. Committeemen can stop lobbying. Congress is there to represent the people, not special interest groups. There is no place in a lawful republic for our duly elected representatives appeasing special interest groups and private associations in receipt of money by supplanting the will of their constituents and replacing it with the will of special interest groups. That would be a bribe, a crime, and a violation of their oaths, placing them in bad behavior and in jeopardy of impeachment, recall, or an indictment, which would result in removal from elective office is the proper action. Politics. Once we, the people, rightfully and lawfully take back control of our courts and political process, dirty politicking can be eradicated by simply restraining elected and appointed servants with the chains of the Constitution. You can find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org under the People's Duties tab. For only the people can save our republic. The militia. National Liberty Alliance is assisting organized counties to organize militias under the auspices of the sheriff. Every able-bodied person should register with their organized group. Each county militia will organize under uniform established rules, regulations, and resolutions. Each county militia will be free and independent under the county sheriff. Existing militias are encouraged to join and assist in this national effort. The militia rose from the posse comitatus, and when properly formed is in fact the people themselves, and includes all males capable of bearing arms. The posse comitatus was generally understood to constitute the law enforcement of the county. When order was threatened, the sheriff would raise the hue cry, and all citizens who heard it were bound to render assistance in apprehending a criminal or maintaining law and order. As per common law, the militia composition and classes consist of all able-bodied males between the ages of 20 and 45, who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, constitutes the unorganized militia, which consists of all members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or the Naval Militia. Every militia member should become a committeeman. There is no conflict of interest for the committeeman and militiamen to become jury administrators. Find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org under the People Duty tab and join our Monday night conference call, because only the people can save the Republic. National Liberty Alliance's structure to restore power to the grassroots. Administrative structure and duties. Founders. Responsible for leading and communicating the NLA plan, leading the development and execution of short and long-term strategies. Organization strategy. Strategy focuses on how to manage resources and communicating on behalf of the National Liberty Alliance to all outside entities and news media. National Director. Coordinates and orchestrates all online activities, working directly with the founders, webmaster, project manager, and committees. Webmaster provides a wide range of website services on a personal and long-term basis, such as hosting and service maintenance, website maintenance, troubleshooting, programming, search engine optimization, and web design. Project Manager. Duties are to plan, organize, lead, and control all NLA activities and oversee the coordinating of the successful organizing and empowerment of the people at the grassroots on the county level. District leaders. One leader per district. We have 10 districts, and right now we have one leader per district, and we'd like to get 2 or 3 or even more. Duties are to organize state coordinators, working with them to fill all county positions. They are to meet with all state coordinators at least once a week to monitor and record their progress, filling county positions. Meetings should be short and limited to the recording of the growth of active counties, listing the names, phone numbers of the state coordinators and county executive committee members, and updating the number of members within each county. District leaders are to encourage all state coordinators and county organizers to take our courses and join our Monday night open forum or download the MP3 if they cannot attend. All district leaders are to attend the Monday night leadership meeting and report the filling of all state coordinators and county organized positions directly to the project manager. State coordinators. Duties are to organize their state by filling county vacancies. They are to meet with all their county chairmen at least once a week, individually or collectively, to monitor and record their progress of filling county positions. Meetings should be short and limited to the recording of the growth of active counties, listing and names of the county executive committee, and updating the number of the members within each county. encouraging all members of the county or Liberty Group to take the NLA courses and join NLA's Monday night open forum or download the MP3 if they cannot attend. All state coordinators are to meet with the district leaders once a week to update their growth. Presently, we have about 80 or 90 state coordinators. We'd like to have at least 2 or 3 or 4 coordinators. So anybody who would like to be a state coordinator, contact the national director, Jan Holland. Also, district leaders, as I mentioned before, we have one apiece, one for each of the 10 districts. We'd like to get 2 or 3 or more leaders in each one of those positions. So again, anybody interested in taking up that position and assisting in organizing the nation and encouraging the grassroots to rise up and take these positions within their counties. Again, you can get a hold of Jan. He's the national director, and he'll assist you. County organization at the grassroots level. The purpose of NLA is to educate, organize, assist, and advise people at the grassroots in order to save our republic by returning to a government by consent, whereas the people may take control of the political and judicial processes. NLA will provide PowerPoint videos designed to assist in your success of government by consent. Organizing your county begins with one person taking the initiative to get things going by finding one other person and then another and another until you have 4 people willing to hold or temporarily hold the following executive positions: chairman, co-chairman, treasurer, and secretary. In the beginning, you should meet somewhere convenient for coffee on a Saturday morning or an evening after work to start discussing ideas and planning. You continue meeting off the fly at least once a week for 20 minutes or more until you have these 4 positions filled and start a meetup group for your county. You can go to meetup.com, which is a great tool for organizing the communications of your group and delivering message, email communications, and sharing files. They charge about $12 quarterly. It was pretty inexpensive. So every 3 months, you get charged $12. And of course, at your meetings, you'll be picking up donations, and that should cover that and some other costs that you might have throughout the month. We should use uniform names such as your state abbreviation, your county, and then Liberty Alliance. So an example would be NY for New York, Dutchess County, Liberty Alliance, and each county respectively the same. Once you organize the aforesaid executive committee and start a meetup group, find a venue in your county that is centrally located, making it convenient for all to travel to. Libraries and town halls are the best. Once your county is organized, you should assist other counties nearby to do the same. You can find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org and look under the People's Duty tab and join the Monday night conference call. Organizing at the grassroots. This is your duty. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Patrick Henry. It is time to take back our republic. You are responsible for taking back our republic at the grassroots level. Help organize your county. Jury administrators. These are paid positions. You can sign up for them at National Liberty Alliance. When you join up to be a member, you can check the box to become a jury administrator and look, of course, under our People's Duties tab. Get plenty of information. Come to our Monday night meetings. Ask questions. Listen in. And we got plenty of leadership that you can make personal contact with if you need more specific information and some other assistance. Grand jury. It is your duty to respond to the grand jury when called. The petit jury, which is the trial jury. It is the duty of every individual to respond to the petit jury call when called. The militia. It is the duty of every individual to become part of the militia within your county. Everybody can participate, even people under 20 and even people over 45, and of course even females can participate. Everybody should register within your county and be prepared to be able to assist the sheriff or even the governor or the president if called for any emergency that might come up. Also, run for committeemen. You can file a designating petition to become elected at the primary election. Very simple process. Doesn't take much time. Only requires about 40 hours a year, if that. And generally that's around election time, usually the primaries and also the election time. Generally speaking, you'd meet 2 hours here and 2 hours there in the evening. I know when we did it, we ran our meetings 7 to 9, 2 hours. And then you would then be able to have the opportunity to ask questions of all of these individuals that are coming to be put onto the ballot to see if they know the Constitution. And you ask them a lot of questions, and then you make the decision whether you want to support these individuals or not and put them on the ballot. This is the people's duty. Right now, they are doing it. Elected individual, people working for the government, a lot of people working for the state, particularly the Board of Elections. They are doing this job. And of course, they are choosing and giving for you the opportunity to vote for the criminal on the right or the criminal on the left. We, the people, must take control of the committeeman process. So learn how to file a designating petition. Many people can run this year, and others can run, if they can't, if it's too late to run this year, you can run next year. Sometimes some states run it as early as January and February and March in order to get all your paperwork in. The other thing the committeeman does also is they should be at the election at the end of the night for the sole purpose of observing the counting of the votes. It may be true that we have an electronic voting system. We'll trust that, but we need to verify it. At that point, after the evening, the votes should be counted by hand and can be checked up against the electronic counting process. It's extremely important. You can find out more. Go to nationallibertyalliance.org under the People's Duty tab and join our Monday night conference call again. And remember, only the people can save the Republic.